back to Unaware Commentary, the place for Pokemon TCG battle narration that doesn't care about the stats.
Welcome back, trainers, to another exciting Pokemon TCG battle narration. I'm your Unaware narrator, and we are catching up with our players here as the battle is about to commence. Opening hands have been drawn, starting basics have been found, 6 prize cards set out for our players. We have our player 1 on the left with the Mega Blastoise mat, our player 2 on the right with the Pseudo Legendaries mat. We are about to get into the game. An interesting matchup here as there is a Dreepy started on the side of our player 1, a Litwick on the side of our player 2 with a Litwick on the bench. The drawing of a card by our player 2 to start off the game, playing a Buddy Poppin as an initial way to go into the deck and find 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less. Additionally, an initial deck search allowing our player 2 to see what resources are available for the game and potentially what resources have been locked in those prize cards behind the need to take knockouts. Looks like we're going to see the finding of a Snorunt and a Litwick that will find their way onto the bench. Interesting to see if we have some additional item cards to play out of the hand. We do see an energy attachment for turn with water energy finding its way onto the Snorunt and a pass over to our player 1 who has attached a fire energy and quickly played a Judge, going to cause both players to shuffle their hands into the deck and draw 4 cards. Judge, one of the means of hand disruption that we see in the format, causing players to go down to low hands. Going to hope for our player 1 to see some setup cards here, something like a Buddy Poppin, a Pokepad, pardon me, or an Ultra Ball to see some additional Pokemon. Our player 2 going to want to see a follow-up supporter for the next turn to be able to get out of what could be a very bricky hand. It is important to be able to play the game. Looks like we're considering the playing of an Ultra Ball, as that hand is Rare Candy, Dragapult, Energy, Ultra Ball. So Ultra Ball can allow for the finding of an additional Pokemon to make sure that we do not lose the game immediately to the attack of something like a Mega Froslass or a Rare Candy Chandelure. We are going to see the finding of a Meowth EX being played onto the bench, Last Ditch Catch being utilized to find a supporter out of the deck. It is going to be a Lily's Determination for the following turn to dig out of the Judge, the position that we've put ourselves in, potentially considering retreating that Dreepy to get it out of harm's way should there be a follow-up attack, but we don't know what's in our other player's hand from the Judge. There is a Mega Froslass finding its way onto the bench and a Lampet finding its way onto the bench as well. The attachment of a Fire Energy to that active Litwick and it being retreated into the Mega Froslass. Considering if there is an additional supporter or item to go into the deck or to draw cards, there is going to be the playing of a Hilda, going to allow for the finding of a Pokemon, Evolution Pokemon, and an energy card, any energy card, potentially going to find some additional resources here to draw cards. Looks like we may have a Chandelure or a Litwick and a Legacy Energy being found here, going to allow for some additional setup in the following turn. We're going to see a knockout of that Dreepy from the Mega Frostlass's resentful refrain, going to do 100 damage to that active Dreepy. Back over to our player 1, we are going to see a Lily's Determination being played. Looks like the attachment of a Psychic Energy to that Meowth, potentially going to want to rotate it out of the active position. If we can find something like a Badoo, if there are Buddy Poppins being found off of this Lily's Determination, seeing 8 cards as no prize cards have been taken by our player, the benching of a Torchic and the finding of a Buddy Poppin. So we're going to be able to set up finding a Dreepy and a Badoo. That attachment of that Psychic Energy, which was likely the draw for turn based on the previous hand, going to be the correct play if the goal is to Itchy Pollen. Going to play a Monkey Dory, looked like also from the hand. Thus there was a Pokepad played that I did not quite see. Going to retreat out of the Meowth EX, promote the Badoo into the active position. Only 30 HP, but able to make the following turn more difficult to play with that Itchy Pollen, going to deal 10 damage to the active Mega Froslass. And shut down items for the turn. We do see the evolution into the Chandelure, the attachment of the Legacy Energy onto the Chandelure. Legacy Energy, when attached to a Pokemon, if it is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, it makes that Pokemon give up 1 less prize card. The playing of that Alluring Light ability from the Chandelure going to cause both players to draw an additional card, going to buff up that hand for that Chandelure's attack. Chandelure's attack going to hit for weakness into that produce only one card in hand being necessary. Mind Ruler going to do plenty of damage with that large hand taken off of the Lily's Determination. An additional prize card being taken by our player 2. Our player 1 here, promotion of a Dreepy into the active position, the playing of an Ultra Ball, discarding a Blaziken EX and a Monkey Dory into the discard pile. The finding of a Blaziken EX onto the bench as a knockout was taken last turn. Flip the Script is active, going to allow our player 1 to draw 3 additional cards. A great comeback resource in the Pokemon TCG, going to allow 4 additional resources to be found. A Dracloak found off of the Blaziken, evolved the active Dreepy into a Dracloak. Recon Directive used immediately. A quick choice of those off those top 2 cards. This has been an obvious resource to our player 1 that is needed. Looking into the discard pile to see what resources may be available, as there is a need to find a Dragapult into play to start taking some damage or setting up some damage counters, as the Chandelure and Froslass onslaught is relentless as long as there are still cards in our player 1's hand. And that Alluring Light forcing additional draws, it can be tough to keep the hand size down. Looks like we do see an Ultra Ball in the hand, potentially able to pare the hand down further. Something like a Buddy Buddy Poppin', also an option to put an additional Dreepy into play, as we see here, Buddy Buddy Poppin' going into the deck, finding an additional Dreepy onto the bench. Do we have a means of getting this Dracloak out of the active position? Something like an energy and then an attachment. With Blaziken EX in the deck, it is more okay for our player to be fast and loose with those energy cards, as they can be accelerated back into play. It's still going to need to have the necessary energies available. The secret box coming out as the aspect of choice for our Dragapult Blaziken player, finding a Watchtower, a air balloon, a rare candy, and we're just looking for what our supporter is likely to be. Likely something like a Lily's Determination, perhaps a Boss's Order, to try to work around this legacy energy to prevent our player 2 from limiting the access to prize cards. Big consideration here, as our supporters are going to be integral for getting additional cards out of the hand, but we want to make sure we're grabbing playable cards, again because of the Mind Ruler attack and that Resentful Refrain damage being based on the number of cards in the hand. Secret box being completed here, those cards finding their way into the hand. The playing of an air balloon, a way of getting that Dracloak out of the active position. Rare candy, Dragapult quickly played, Night Stretcher being played, allowing for the grabbing of an energy, going to accelerate energy onto that Mega Blaziken, using its ability, using the air balloon to retreat the Dracloak. Promotion of Blaziken into the active position and a knockout being taken on that Chandelure. The legacy energy going to prevent the drawing of a prize card. We're going to be dealing big damage, that 200 damage being done by the Blaziken, being set up by its Seething Spirit ability and the utilization of this Smolder Salt for 200 damage. Our player 2 here, promoting the Mega Froslass EX into the active position, does hit for water damage, as it will be the weakness of that active Blaziken EX, and a large hand potentially still off of the Lily's Determination and the secret box. Hard to see how many cards may be in our player 1's hand. Into the discard pile, trying to figure out what the resources are, as our player 2 is looking through the deck with a Pokepad to find another non-rule box Pokemon to be placed onto the field. We did see the evolution of a second Mega Froslass on the bench, the evolution into a Lampent on the bench as well for that bench Litwick. Going back into the deck with a Buddy Buddy Poppin', looking for 2 Pokemon with 70 HP or less, or up to 2. Going to see if there is a means of thinning the deck further and filling those bench spots. It is not an Alluring Light ability, so not going to be able to force our opponent to have a larger hand. Still trying to determine what the best line here would be, best resources. We do find a Tatsugiri, a means of finding additional cards, only 1 card in the hand, so that even with weakness, that a Resentful Refrain only dealing 100 damage to the active Blaziken EX, with that large 320 HP stat, not worried about taking that damage. You see the playing of a Pokepad going into the deck, finding a second Dragapult, and the quick playing of a Lily's Determination. Still gonna find 6 cards, or still gonna find 8 cards, as the knockout that was taken on the previous turn didn't allow for a prize card to be taken because of the activation of Legacy Energy. So Lily's Determination still in its prime form. We're going to be able to go find 8 cards and resources. The attachment of what looks like a Fire Energy to the Dragapult on the bench, the failing of a Pokepad, the playing of an Area 0 Underdepths to potentially expand the bench once a Terra Pokemon is in play. Dragapult likely the only Terra Pokemon in this deck, a good resource to be able to get liabilities like the Meowth and the Pheasantipity off board in the late game should there be multiple stadium bounces. The playing of an Ultra Ball to further thin down the hand. Our player 1 making sure that those Mind Rulers and those Resentful Refrains are going to do as little damage as possible, limiting the hand as it is the primary means of damage for our Chandelure Froslass player. Still no Dragapult quite finding its way into play. Going to play a Night Stretcher here, going to the discard pile. We did discard a Dragapult earlier in the game. It's going to find its way into play onto that Dragapult with the energy card. The energy potentially being attached from the Blaziken earlier in the turn. More likely going to be from the hand. The playing of an additional Pokepad going into the deck to find a Torchic, potentially another resource that can be thinned down. We're going to see the retreat of the Blaziken. We are going to have seen likely that attachment from the hand, as we'll see the Blaziken ability utilized here to get that Psychic Energy from the discard pile onto the Dragapult. Seething Spirit powering up the Dragapult. A Phantom Dive coming down, going to knock out the Snow Run on the bench and do 200 damage to the active Mega Froslass. 6 damage counters finding their way down onto the bench to take that knockout here. 2 Mega Froslass set up. Did not see the cards in hand for our player 2, but a Dragapult with 320 HP staring down our player 2. Another large HP stat from this Stage 2 deck, as all of the Stage 2s have come to party. We're going to see the roll for a Crushing Hammer coming out of our player 2's deck. It is a Tails, or we're determining which energy is going to come down. The Area 0 Underdepths did allow for the benching of that Torchic on the previous turn. Just determining here what is going to be the best course of action, as that low hand size is limiting the damage. We don't have an Alluring Enlightened play. Do we want to retreat into the Tatsugiri and take potentially a turn off of dealing damage? No, just a retreat into a fresh Mega Froslass. Going to see the Resentful Refrain here doing 100 damage. Only 2 cards in the hand of our player 1, being able to pare down that hand last turn, really limiting the damage of our Mega Froslass player. We see the draw for turn, a quick recon directive, and a quick selection of the cards here. Still drawing additional resources, confident that Dragapult is going to be able to deal the damage and then keep the hand size low to survive on the following turn. No access to things like Flip the Script this turn, but could put a second Dragapult into play, an additional Combuskin or Blaziken into play. Looking at our discard pile here, going to activate the Seething Spirit ability to put a Dark Energy onto that benched Monkey Dory. Adrenal Brain has entered the chat and is available to move up to 30 damage counters from one of our player 1's Pokemon onto one of our player 2's Pokemon to help with damage numbers, adding additional damage counters to things like the Lampent to make it more subjective to the damage of Phantom Dive. Looks like 3 damage counters being moved from the active Dragapult onto that bench Lampent, as we thought. A Phantom Dive likely to be seen here, doing 200 damage to the active Mega Froslass, 60 damage finding its way onto the bench Mega Froslass. Both of those are still fairly healthy. The draw for turn from our player 2. Those Mega Froslasses have taken multiple Phantom Dives and Phantom Dive counter damage. Important that those damage counter numbers are being set up, as they only have 310 HP. So that bench one having 260 damage on it is only going to leave it with 50 HP. An Ultra Ball, not a playable card for our player 2. It looks like going to just have to go for the Resentful Refrain here into the active Dragapult. But again, our player 1 keeping the hand size low, potentially going to retreat the energy off before going for the Resentful Refrain into the other Mega Froslass here. So many damage counters that have been spread out by our Dragapult player from the Phantom Dives that it is difficult to see what resources are here, as if both Mega Froslass are knocked out in the following turn, that'll be the game. We're going to see the retreat into the highly damaged Mega Froslass, as we don't want it to be a bench sitting resource. Plenty of damage being done here by the Resentful Refrain, but not quite enough to take a knockout on the Dragapult. We do see a boss's orders come out, pulling up the Mega Froslass into the active position of Phantom Dive, going to take 7 prizes, both Mega Froslass being knocked out, the Lampet being knocked out. That'll be the game. Thank you so much for watching, players. We will catch you next time.